Hey, welcome back. Been a while, and the last time you saw this van, we had just gotten it. That was over a year ago. The good news is, well, we actually use it now. It's running, it's driving, and it's camping. What we've learned very quickly on our camping trips is we've got power needs. Got 2 kids, it's 2021, there's devices, phones, tablets, fans, you name it. You know, it's the modern era and we're camping, but we're also realistic and we've got to have our phones charged. 1, in case the thing breaks down and gotta call a tow truck, but 2, just because we're doing stuff, checking in, social media, pictures. Like, always gotta have that tablet charged up in case it starts raining. We power a fan, got lights, you name it. We need power coming out of the van. Where that gets tricky is you don't want to plug everything into your main battery and run the battery dead. Now you can't start the van. No way in hell I'm push starting this thing. So you need an additional power solution, whether it's solar, whatever, a generator. The great option for these vans is an auxiliary battery setup. One battery that runs the van, the other battery that powers all your stuff. And my van just so happens to be already wired up for it. All right, so check this out. We're in the van, and just like a normal van, here's the battery. It lives under the passenger seat, connects to the engine, all good. Same as always. But what you'll see, there's a couple other wires coming off that battery, and what they do is they go under here to the driver's seat. This is where you put your extra battery. And so the cool thing about these kits is they isolate this extra battery from the rest of the system. When the van is off, this battery isn't connected to this battery. So you can run this one totally empty, whatever, and this one's still good. You can still start the van, drive away, go home, whatever. But when it's running, the 2 are connected, and then this battery is getting charged the same way that this battery gets charged. Brilliant. So if that's all good to go, then what's the point of the video? What's left to do? You plug in the battery, you're good to go. Well, sort of, that would be great, but you got to connect the stuff to the extra battery in order to connect your devices. And so as I look around, it's got this thing, which is just like a little cigarette lighter socket that's just wired to the battery itself. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Most importantly, we've got 2 things that I want to work on in this project. Number 1, I want to connect the radio, the lights, the other 12 volt socket thing, the stuff that my kids turn on and leave on and then run the normal battery dry. I want to connect all that stuff to this auxiliary battery, and I'll do that through the van's just factory fuse panel. So we'll run the power from the auxiliary battery up to the fuse panel, and that'll make sure that the radio, the lights and stuff get powered through this auxiliary battery. If we run that all the way down, whatever, we're still good. During that process, I'll also set up an additional fuse panel that we can use to wire in more accessories. So, like a USB hub for charging other devices, whatever you need, that can all come out of this guy. Project number 2. I talked about before how the extra battery gets charged when the van's running. Well, the van's not always running, especially for camping. How else can we keep that battery charged if the van is off and we're in a camping spot? Well, for that, introduce solar power. Cool, dude. So we'll connect various connectors to that extra battery, hook it up to this solar charge connector, hook that up to some solar panels, and voila, we're entering into the 21st century? We're entering into 2021 with solar power for the van. Very cool. Here we go. First things first, here is, again, this is the driver's side. This is where that extra battery goes. And as you can see, it's already got some wiring in here. Very cool. Got our positive, got our negative. Should be fine. This is the relay that controls how they separate from each other. But this is kind of sketch. So basically, I think I'm just gonna start taking some of this stuff apart, clean it up. Again, it's like pretty dirty in here. I don't know if anybody ever had a battery connected, whatever, but I'm going to clean this up, get this out of here, and get things ready for the installation of that extra battery and the wiring up of that extra fuse panel that I showed earlier. And once I pulled that bubble wrap battery tray out, there's definitely evidence there was a battery in here, and it looks like there was a battery in here for quite some time with some of that, like, whatever corrosion-y stuff that forms. I sucked a bunch of that up, and I also discovered, well, there's a little bit of rust at the bottom of there. So it must have been like an old-fashioned lead acid battery that leaks a little bit or whatever, but there is a little bit of rust in there. Let's check that out. So here's what I'm talking about. Not too bad by any means, just like the normal surface rust that you'd probably find at the bottom of any battery tray. But nonetheless, it still deserves some treatment. So I'll get the brush out, brush that up, clean it up, treat that rust. Should be fine. Again, it's just a little bit of surface rust from any normal battery tray. So we'll get that treated and pick up from there. And we're back. So all I did in here, scraped it down with the brush a little bit, cleaned all that out, sprayed some rust converter, and then hit it with a little bit of primer. That's dry now, so our battery compartment is good to go. The next thing I want to do is place this little fuse block. So this is going to connect to the extra auxiliary battery, and basically runs a little cable into this post, which then distributes the power to these different blocks. So I'm thinking that this is a pretty good spot to put it. It's under the seat still, real close, nice and easy. What I did is I laid down a little bit of electrical tape underneath this though, because as I look underneath, all these little lugs that our power wires are going to connect to, well, they're exposed, and just in case, I don't want that touching the metal of our van. So I put down that electrical tape. Up next, all I gotta do is figure out how to attach this, and then that part will be good to go as well. It's hot out here. Pro tip, don't be in a big metal box in the middle of July when it's stupid hot out. Anyway, I've got the fuse panel into place. That was super easy. 2 screws, zip it down, all good. And I made up this cable to run from the battery into that fuse block. I just went with a straight connection, again, since everything in there is going to be fused anyway. So this one just going to come straight off the battery. Nice, dude. Good job. Let's see, it's this one actually. This one fits. Good job. Well done. All right, let's snip that off. Okay, let's try that again. Now, let's run a line from here up to the van's fuse panel. Here we are. We're back in the front of the van. This is where the fuse box is. And I've got it pulled down a little bit. It was just one screw to get this to drop. What I'm after is this fuse right here, the third one on the list. 1, 2, 3. That third fuse is the one that controls, or the one that powers, the radio, the inside lights, the cigarette lighter, etc. So what I want to do is interrupt the power that's running through that fuse. So if you think about how a fuse works, you got your battery, runs a wire to the fuse, and then after the fuse goes to the various things, right? So if I pull this fuse out, no more power is going to that circuit. Again, runs directly through this guy right here. And these two little blades, power goes in one side and out the other. So what we can do is kind of intercept that. So right now, power goes from the battery on this side in here, out the other end to the radio. But if I cut this off and send power from the auxiliary battery to this side, well, that would do the trick of intercepting the power from our main battery and replacing it with power from our secondary battery. So what I can do is take a little guy like this, stick it in where the fuse used to go, and if I do it on the right side, again, there's going to be, if I use this as our example, probe back the 2 points of contact that this thing makes. One side is going to be empty. That's going to be the receiving side, no power. And theoretically, the other side, if I check that, it'll have 12 volts coming from our main battery. So I want to leave the 12 volt side empty. And on the side that has no power, that's where I want to stick this guy, because I'm going to send power from our auxiliary battery through this into that to the radio and the lights and the power. Bingo bango. That's how we're going to do it. So I'm going to connect this to a very long wire, feed that through, go back, pop it in, and that'll be that. So I've got the wire run. All I did was just kind of fish it up and around. Actually, I went down from the top to come out under here. But most importantly, I've got our little wire end securely placed in the bottom slot. So again, on this 87 weekender, it ended up being the bottom slot that I needed to pop that into on fuse number 3. Consult your Bentley manual. Again, your wiring might vary, but the concept should be consistent. Again, all we're doing is just interrupting the power signal instead of coming from the main battery, which is the top portion of that fuse. We're going to send it directly from our auxiliary battery into the bottom portion directly to the power components. So theoretically, if I were to connect the other end of this red wire here to a power source, I would then have power to the radio. So now all I got to do is I've tightened that up. I'll put the cover back on, route everything nicely under here, through the seat, through a grommet, back to our little compartment. Right on. And we're back under the driver's seat. Here's that red wire coming from the fuse box. And all I've done is I've wired a little connector on there, gone into our auxiliary fuse panel. Since it was a 10 amp circuit before, I've just popped a little 10 amp fuse in there now. And this is good to go. So again, as soon as this connects to our auxiliary battery, it will be powered by the auxiliary battery running through that circuit up into the fuse panel to the radio and the stuff up there. So that's good to go. I even have a little cover for more protection, and it's got a little sticker that says radio. Boom! How easy is that? The other cool thing, since this is a dual battery setup, if I turn the van on, that's going to switch this relay on, and it will connect this battery, which is still missing, so just run with me on that. It'll connect this battery with that battery. So a cool way that I think I can test this is, right now it's off, so the radio should not turn on. But as soon as I turn the van on, and by on I mean running, because the relay is triggered by the alternator charging. As soon as I turn the van on, I should be able to turn on the radio. Back up in the front of the van, let's give this a shot. Van is obviously off, so let's try our radio, and nothing. Okay. Now, put the key in. Power's on. Should still also, right? Nothing. Now, van is running. Let's try this. Oh! You like pina colada, getting cold in the rain. Okay, day 2, project 2. It's been a couple days later, but that's okay. Project 2, as I said before, is figuring out the solar side of things. So we went through, we put in the extra battery. That's all cool. When you're running and driving the van, it gets charged by the alternator just like a regular battery does. But what happens when you're camping? Obviously, you don't want to just leave the van on and running the whole time. So in comes solar to charge it. And to have solar, probably the most important thing is a solar panel. And a lot of different, I don't know, van lifers or solar people, they figure out how to mount the panel onto the van. I took a different approach. And first of all, I think that this little like suitcase thing is cool as heck. But you open this up, and what I got here is it's kind of like, I guess you would call it a solar briefcase, in that the whole thing opens into this like fold out solar panel thing. So it's 2 of these. It opens up like this. I don't know if that's going to show up good, but it opens up and you just stick this solar panel where it's sunny. So I went with this because I felt like, I don't know, depending on where we're camping, like the places that we have been, there's trees and shade and whatnot. So if you're parked, obviously you want to park the van in the shade so it doesn't get too hot. But then if you're parked in the shade and you got the solar panel on top, that's not going to work out either. This thing, I just put wherever it's sunny, and that works. And then the van's cool. This is hot. Whatever. It's super easy. I'm going to show you how to connect it now. Right on. So here's what would be the back side of the solar panel. You got the little solar part of it. I don't really know how this stuff works. You got the solar part on the other side. This is the back. Here's the cable. So it's got these 2 pieces here. It goes into this thing. And here's your little cable that you plug into something to get the solar juice out of. What do you plug it into? That is another thing called a solar charge controller. And again, bear with me, I'm pretty new to this kind of technology, but it's so simple, it's really not that bad at all. You get one of these jib jabs, which is called a solar charge controller, and all that does is it converts the solar energy that these panels are collecting into something that your battery can charge from. So different batteries charge differently, whether it's like a traditional car battery that you have in any other car that's got like the acid and stuff inside, or maybe you've got a gel battery that some of my race cars use gel batteries because they're easier. Like lots of motorcycle batteries are like that. Or maybe you got a lithium ion battery because you're super cool and hip. Whatever that is, you plug that into this thingy and it converts the power into whatever your battery is going to use. It's got 4 of these little spots on the back. 2 of them are for this. These 2 wires go in here, and then the other 2 go to your battery. It's that easy. Seriously. So I think I'm gonna, since this folds up into a suitcase so nice, I kind of want to just attach this in here and then have this whole kit fold up into the travel suitcase and be done with it. So I've got some wiring here, and what this is just from Battery Tender. It's like a little terminal kit that comes with a fuse and everything, so just to protect some things. But what I can do is, I've got 2 of these, and I'm thinking if I snip, so let's open this up and I'll show you what I mean. So you got this controller piece right here, and I got this little battery terminal kit from Battery Tender. You can probably do a lot of, any kind of wiring. You could do your own wiring. The cool part about this is it's got these little connectors. So if you've got anything that's on a regular Battery Tender that you plug in. If you got a car that sits over the winter or a motorcycle that sits, they got these little connectors and they make it real easy to just connect and disconnect. That's the cool part about this. So if I run this end with these two terminals, I'll just snip those off, run them into the controller, and I've got another one. So if you think about connect that to the battery, now I've got easy plug and play connection from the solar kit, solar suitcase, which is going to be all contained in this little package. Open this up, set it in the sun, quick connect into the van, which is going to be connected to the battery there. Good to go, done. So I'm going to snip these off, get this connected somehow into this suitcase, and then that part is done, right? Awesome. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Check this out. So because I got two of these kits and they connect like this, I've actually got to reverse the polarity of the one that connects into the solar panel. And the reason that is because I don't know if you can see this or not, but you know, these are just two of the same kit. So with the connectors, the positive is going to the negative and the negative is going to the positive when I connect these two things. So basically on this one that connects to the panel, you got to flip it around, and that way when these are joined together, this red terminal that goes to the battery positive is the same wire or connection that's going to the positive on the solar controller. I hope that makes sense. But again, make sure that if you're using these two things, that because of this connector, you wire in the negative to the positive and the positive to the negative on the solar controller. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, back to work. A little bit messy, but I've got it all figured out over here and tied it up a little bit, but basically did the same thing that we did on the solar panel where we connected that battery tender connection. I've got the other one going into the battery connectors. On this side, I went negative to negative and positive to positive, and then I just routed little cable, comes right out here where the seatbelt wire comes through, so it's perfectly spaced to just hang out right here. You know, not completely hidden, but not in the way either, so that's right there, ready to go. And you might be saying, well, you know, that's kind of short for connecting your solar panel. That's where this guy comes in. This is a 25-foot extension cable specifically for these battery tender connectors. Super cheap. This was like just another 10 bucks. But you know, get to the campsite or wherever we're at, connect one end to this right here into the van, 25 feet out to the solar panel, good to go. Everything is set up, protected. I've got I even put another circuit for that old 12-volt outlet that we found. So I got that going on the fuse panel. The only thing left is to test it out. It's cloudy right now, so I'll see you now.
One eternity later.
Made it, and I'm out at the camping place, but it's not your typical camping place. It's a racetrack, so apologies for the background noise. The audio is going to be terrible right now. The good news is that the sun just came out. So let's go ahead, we'll pull the solar panel out, see if it charges. All right, cool. I think we're in business. So it's probably gonna be hard to see, but we're charging, so we're generating some power. The controller is holding it steady. I did change it to the right setting for a lithium battery. So I think we're working here. I don't know. We'll check back a little bit later. Again, it's not the sunniest day, but the sun is peeking through a little bit. And the numbers are going up. I don't know. Welcome back. Apologies for the kind of mismatch in the wrap of the camping racetrack weekend, but back home. And I got my partner here. So we're just gonna wrap up kind of the overall solar impressions. It worked out perfectly. At the racetrack, I couldn't really focus too much on the solar part. Obviously, I had a race to run. Full video on that coming out next. But having the solar panels out, it was able to charge the auxiliary battery, and I was running all kinds of stuff out of the van. We had lights running. I was charging a computer, charging a GoPro, charging the little lap timey thing that we use for data out of the race car, just running all kinds of stuff off of that. Yeah, and we won. Running all kinds of stuff off of the solar power, so it worked out perfectly. I wasn't worried about power the whole trip. Had plenty of other stuff to worry about, so thankfully this is one thing checked off the list, and it just ran great. It charged during that whole drive. We were good with the solar power. I wish it was a little bit more sunny over the weekend, but for the time that we did have in the sun, it worked out great. And I think this is gonna be a great addition to our Vanagon camping apparatus. So thanks for watching. Post in the comments if you have questions. Again, I'm still learning about this stuff. It's like, I don't know how to do the settings and the menus in the solar controller. So as I learn, I'll probably post that there. I'll also post a link to all the different pieces and parts that I'm using here. There's so many options out there. Feel free to adjust it as you see fit. If you need bigger battery for more power, if you're gonna be out in the middle of nowhere for longer. But so far so good for us and our little suitcase solar system. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. You can say bye?
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, thanks.
What's that?
That's the camera.
The Barbie Dog?
Yeah, the camera.
Barbie Dog?